I will not remember 99% of the messages Pastor Ina preached, but I'll never forget his kindness. I will never forget his kindness.
I will miss him so much because our marriage and our family were beautiful. And someone once asked me how Charlie and I, how we kept our marriage so strong when he was busy traveling. And our little secret, it was love notes. Every Saturday, Charlie wrote one for me, and he never missed a Saturday. And in every single one of them, he'd tell me what his highlight was for the week, how grateful he was for me and our babies. And always at the end, he would always end it with asking the most beautiful question. He'd always end it by asking, "Please let me know how I can better serve you as a husband." Charlie perfectly understood God's role for a Christian husband. A man who leads so that they can serve. To all the men watching around the world, accept Charlie's challenge and embrace true manhood. Be strong and courageous for your families. Love your wives and lead them. Love your children and protect them. Be the spiritual head of your home. But please be a leader worth following. Your wife is not your servant. Your wife is not your employee. Your wife is not your slave. She is your helper. You are not rivals. You are one flesh working together for the glory of God. I was Charlie's confidant. I was his bolt, his closest and most trusted advisor, his best friend. I poured into him and loved him so deeply, empowered him, because his love for me drove me to be a better wife. Every day he honored me, and I prayed that I could be the wife that God needed me to be for my husband. I love you, Charlie, baby. And I will make you proud.
You know, when I listened to Erika's tribute to her husband, something really stood out to me. And I decided to bring it here, that perspective. You know, she didn't just spend the whole time listening the achievements. She didn't list his titles. She talked about who this guy really was. His character, his love, his legacy. And it got me really thinking. In marriage, we are all leaving behind a legacy. Whether we know it, whether we realize it or not. It was a sad one. It is a sad one. And I started thinking to myself, asking myself, what would my spouse remember most about me if I was gone tomorrow? What would I remember about him if he's gone tomorrow? Now, legacy in marriage is not about money. It's not about possessions. It's not about titles. It's not even about big milestones. It's about those everyday love, you know, the values, the faith we live out to the person who knows us in and out. The things that linger in the hearts of the people that are closest to us, that sees our downfalls, that sees our weaknesses. It hit home for me, you know, and I have this question for you. or I have this question for myself. Let me pose it to myself. How do I make my spouse to feel loved every day? Not just on anniversaries, not just when their birthdays, not when things are going well, but in those ordinary, messy daily life. Because at the end of the day, it's those small, consistent acts of love that will be remembered the most by our spouses. Erika's message hit home for me because she was not the first person I was hearing, say something in that line about her husband. I've also heard the same message from Sarah Omakwu. Sarah Omakwu is a pastor. Her husband died years ago and she continued the ministry. I want you to hear it from her exactly. Let's watch this together.
I came this morning to challenge us husbands and wives to serve one another. To serve one another. I will not remember 99% of the messages Pastor Ina preached, but I'll never forget his kindness. I will never forget his kindness. I'll never forget his servanthood. And I've told you over and over how every day Pastor will come back. When he was going to work, he will stand and say, honey, is there anything you want for me to do for you today? Every day. And there were times he would have gone and I would have forgotten it. Maybe 5 minutes later, I will hear him running back to the room. I say, honey, what did you forget? He said, oh, I forgot to ask if there's anything you want for me to do for you today. Pastor used to make breakfast for us, Caleb. On Saturdays, Helen, remember, Pastor will cook for us. He will cut oranges, he will do eggs, he will do this, he will do that. He will serve it on table and come and knock on our doors to come and eat. And he will pack the plates to the kitchen. Pastor always ate and took his plate to the kitchen. Pastor fixed our bed. Pastor cleaned till he died. So as I do this work, Pastor is dead. And I'm serving God. But to me, I just feel a sense of loyalty to Pastor so that this work he started will not die. I want to challenge every man. Some of you, the last time you picked a plate was when you left your mother's house. Your wife has become your glorified house help. You are just a boss in your house. Unboss yourself. Unboss yourself. Unboss yourself. It's a big life. It's a big life when a man cleans, when a man changes diapers, when a man washes. Pastor, till today, I don't have a washing machine and a dryer in the house. From culture, just from any of us could wash. It was not a big deal. Pastor was not a boss. And those of you, how many of you met Pastor Ina? Let me see your hand. Am I telling the truth about Pastor? Pastor will stop and greet people. Pastor was not a boss. We did everything together. But Pastor did it with joy. He did it whistling.
Now let me tell you the episode or the beginning of the episode of how I met this Pastor Sarah. I got married sometime in 2015 and then I had to leave Lagos. I had to relocate to the town my husband was. So I had to change my church in a new land, a new place. I started attending this church. And that was when I got to know about Pastor Sarah Omakwu and the history. And that was how I knew her story. And I remember when we got married, my husband would tell me, I want to love you. I want to love you. The way Pastor Ina loved Pastor Sarah. And at that point, it was still new to me. I didn't know so much about it or about what that meant until years later, I understood the magnitude of that love. Things like this, your spouse cannot lie about it if you're not there. And there are not things that can be lied about. There are not things that someone can just say because, there's a little that your spouse can do if you're not there, if you're not playing your role, if you're not making life easy for them. There's a little they can do about your image or your legacy when you're not there. when life happens, when anything happens, maybe there's ill health, or you're not around, or you're not available, or even in a rare case like this of death of a loved one, what would your spouse say about you? What legacy? One thing I see about these two women is how much their husband loved them, to the point that they would do anything to uphold that legacy. They would do anything, and that is what fuels their drive in living. Pastor Ina has been gone now for how many years? I can't remember how many years, but I know it's over 20 years. Yes. And the ministry has exceeded far more than you can think or imagine. And what is the primary reason for that? It was fueled by the love he had for his wife. The love that he had for his wife. I can't put all my thoughts, all my words, all my thoughts into words, but I see these two women and I saw that their husband were intentional in loving them to infinity. And there was one statement, the same statement that two of them made. Erika said something. Now, Charlie would ask her, I think in the morning, or send a message to ask her to say, what will I do for you today? And Pastor Sarah always says that the husband will ask her, how can I make you happy today? That is the height of intentionality. In this day and time, where everybody is busy, husband is trying to, pay the bills and everything, and then you are busy. And then, it will require you going out of your way to ask your spouse to say, how can I make your life better today? Like, I've not even finished making my life better. I want to make someone else better. It is intentionality to say, I'm not thinking about myself now. I have a lot to do. I have to pay the bills. I have a demanding life. And then you go and meet your spouse to say, how can I make you happy today? It's the thoughts, the intentionality, saying it every day. What are you doing to leave a legacy for your spouse? That when your spouse is talking to you, talking to people about you, they can beat their chest and say, this man, this woman is God sent. This woman is good. This woman loves me. Or this man loves me. And then I'm asking myself, will my spouse beat his chest anywhere and say, this woman loves me? That's a reflection. How does this resonate with you? What legacy are you leaving for your spouse? I'm sorry that this video is upside down. It's not planned, but I heard this speech and it reenacted everything I've heard about my pastor back in Abuja to say, what legacy am I leaving? And it's not just about saying, I want to start doing these things so that when I'm not there, it's about being intentional in being the best version of yourself in that relationship, in that marriage, so that even when you are not there, he doesn't have to be dead. When you're somewhere and someone needs to speak out for you, your spouse can boldly say, I was loved. That man is good. And it has to do with your character, your everyday character. How much you love them, how you care, how you share, how sacrificial are you? Yes, I talked about the legacy of love. How much or how deeply are you showing love to your spouse? Also, the legacy of faith, of values, what do you believe? How are you living it out? That's part of your marriage legacy too. Our children, our friends, even our community, even the people that live around us. They see it, they feel these things. It's glaring and they carry it. How do you treat those people around you? Treat your parents, treat your siblings, treat your children, treat your spouse, because it will always reflect in your family. There's one thing that we are trying to uphold, and it's getting the children to know their grandparents, to speak with them, speak with their siblings, show forgiveness towards themselves. These are so many of those legacies that you can, think about. Also, there's a legacy of, presence. You don't just wait for big events. It's the little moments. Smile across the room. The time you put your phone down and, you really listen and say, the whole world waits. This is the time for my spouse. That's, those quiet laughter after a very long day. Those everyday moments, they become the story that your marriage tells after long after you've gone. So how do we build this kind of legacy? It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start small. Show love in practical ways every day. Live your values consistently, especially at home. That is where it matters most. Be intentional about creating memories with your spouse. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Simple memories. Every act of love, every value you live, every moment of, presence with your spouse. That is it's like planting a seed into the story of your marriage. So I want to leave you with this. If your spouse is asked to describe your legacy today, what would they say about you? What do you want them to say? That's a question that's worth sitting down with in your mind. Because, legacy is not something we're writing down. It's not something we wait to see when we die. It's something we live day by day. For me, I love my spouse to know that, or to feel that I love them deeply. I can sacrifice things for them. To see my everyday life and know that, I'm bent on loving them. I'm bent on being sacrificial. I'd love to hear from you. What legacy do you want your marriage to leave? I hope this has not been an emotional one, but I'm just trying to put my words. But it's something that is thought-provoking. What legacy are you leaving? Drop it in the comments. What did you think of these 2 videos I've shared with you? And if in any way you found this conversation helpful, subscribe. Drop a like so that I'll be encouraged to bring more content here that'll help you to live, love, and life intentionally. And until next time, keep building that love that will last beyond a lifetime. I'll see you in this next video.